And for the first time, because of that, we were able to bring the appropriation bill along with the details. Now, beyond that also, you come to agree with me that, of course, even the budget itself, the Constitution says we must create a balance, and this very budget, we try to make sure that every constituent part of Nigeria is going to feel the impact of the federal government. So if you look at this, this is remarkable in the sense that this has not been the case before. Now, the former Senate or the former assemblies, they've tried their best. And of course, we must admit they made one or two mistakes. And at the end of our own tenure also, it's not impossible for people to see one or two mistakes, because we are human beings, we are not infallible. And so we must look at these things from this perspective. But to my mind, we have done very well in terms of enhancing the way we do our work. Now, in terms of motions, for example, we have considered over 200 motions, and most of them dealing with very critical issues that touch on the lives of Nigerians. Remarkably, in this particular sphere of motions, for example, I recall very vividly, we were able to resolve issues that had to do with unwarranted and unfortunate dismissal of people. The case of Sergeant Amos Olania is a case in point, who suffered for 21 years. The Senate was able to resolve this because the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions to date has been able to address over 95 petitions against what we used to have before. And there are many other petitions that have been resolved in favor of various Nigerians that have been unjustly treated by their organizations. Now, if you look at the issue of our contribution to economic growth, we have done so much in this sphere. It will be recalled that it was on the floor of the Senate, for example, that the Minister of Finance had to explain to Nigerians that having gone on 3 consecutive negative growths, technically Nigeria was in a recession. This has to do with the foresight of the National Assembly in agreeing that, look, there are issues and we must bring in those people who need to be accountable to the people to explain to us what is happening. And to date, I want to say after that, we went on to have a robust debate where we were able to come up with over 21 suggestions to the executive.
All right,
and I recall vividly at the presentation.
Just give us a moment, Senator. We'll go to break, but we'll be back and let you conclude your thoughts in just a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Let's get back to Senator Abdullahi. Senator, could you tell us, in terms of amending the Constitution, because we know that that's one key area lots of people get interested when it comes up. What area, or what can you say the National Assembly or the Senate has done to ensure that at least the people get a lot more power to do things?
All right, thank you very much. If I get you well, you want to know what the Senate is doing with respect to the constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
Let me say that the constitutional amendment process, we know, is a long and tenuous process. And that is why the Senate decided to start much more earlier by having the committee, and the committee at the Senate level is chaired by the Deputy Senate President. Now, this committee has done so much, and at this particular stage, I think we have reached a level that we are waiting for the reps to finish their own so that there can be harmonization, because it is the harmonized report that must be sent to the various state House of Assembly. But let me say that the key highlights of the amendment is looking at the aspect of local government. And I think this is very important because we know within the structure of the country, currently, the local government level is more or less dead. Not much is happening at that level. And I think we believe that the local government should enjoy financial autonomy. The last Senate, in the amendment they did, they fell short of getting the required 2/3 majority from the state. So I think this time around we are hoping that Nigerians will rise up, as they have already been doing through their various voice, to say that, look, the local government must be empowered, because that is the lowest level of governance that is very close to the grassroots. And if that level is empowered, I want to believe that some of the little problems we are seeing here, which sometimes even, what do they call it, transform into big national issues, can be tackled and nipped in the bud. And let me say that In doing this, we are convinced that this time around, as a nation, all stakeholders are desirous of seeing some change, and those who need to do the needful will ensure that the needful is done so that people can really feel the impact of the governance at that particular lower level, and that can also support whatever is done at the federal and state level.
If I could jump in with this one, some of those who are pessimistic about the functions or the need of a bicameral legislature or even the National Assembly's functions, they say if they will make it, or if the National Assembly will make it easier for the electorate to recall the elected officials, then they'll begin to listen to you. Do you think that that's an area that perhaps the National Assembly should look into? The power of recall, making it very easy?
Well, you see, it's easier for people to say you should make something very easy. I want to believe the way democracy is structured is such that you give somebody the opportunity for 4 years to show that he's capable of delivering. And within this context, if there is any need, the process of recall is there. And I think this process is simply showing that some people want to take undue advantage to just say, look, I don't like this person, remove him. If truly people who really voted somebody in are the ones who wants to recall him, the process is very clear. And I don't think, to my mind, it is something extremely difficult. What is important here is that in making it easy also, are we not going to be propping up another crisis in our hand? I think these are issues that we must begin to look at. And I want to submit that if the processes of delivering dividends of democracy are made to be more accountable to the people, in the sense that people who are given this responsibility are seen to be doing their job, then some of these issues may not even be necessary. But of course, yes, somebody has voted you in and he wants to see you performing. And we take our powers from the people, definitely.
When you talk about recall, for instance, the opposite will be a suspension. What structural adjustments are you having within the assembly there for you to have a situation whereby you don't have to necessarily suspend somebody for 180 days?
Well, you see, the issues are very clear. When you step into the National Assembly, yes, I'm representing Niger North Senatorial District. And of course, I want to see that whatever it is that affects Niger North Senatorial District is carefully tackled. That is exactly the mindset of everybody who is representing people. But the point is, when we step into chamber, we're expected, having sworn to defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and having sworn to the oath of office and the allegiance to the Senate as an institution, a democratic constitutional institution for that matter, it is expected that we must respect the rule of law. Now, within this context, I think it's important to know that when this does not happen, what are we going to have? We know we're going to end up in chaos. And I don't think anybody is interested in a chaotic situation. Now, the Constitution is very clear. It says the legislature should be able to regulate itself. And it is not anything new. Associations and different groups, they have disciplinary procedures. And when an area member decides to do something else, of course, he should be disciplined. And I don't think there is anything wrong in that. What is important here is that when we are taking action, we are taking action to promote the unity of Nigeria collectively. Whether you are from Niger North or you are from Kano North or whatever district you are representing, overall the interest is that we are taking a stand that will promote the unity and deepen the democratic processes. And I think that is what is important, and not the aspect of maybe somebody is being punished and then it becomes an issue.
Winding down now, Senator, could you tell us what is the thinking of the National Assembly in ensuring that a lot more or younger people are allowed to come into political office?
Yeah, I think, let me say that, of course, there is a bill in the House of Reps which seeks to see that, the age limit is adjusted. And I think we are supportive of whatever it is that we give the youth enhanced, participation in the democratic space. That is the stand of the National Assembly. We support the youth because the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, and they must be given every support to participate in governance. And I think the idea of wanting to, limit, which has now come to the forefront of, our discussions and deliberations, I think we surely receive a positive support from the National Assembly. I think the group actually visited the Senate President sometimes some weeks back, and he gave them a very positive support to the effect that, yes, the Senate and indeed the National Assembly will do all it can to ensure that we have more participation of youth in the democratic space.
All right, and Senator Aliyu Sabi-Abdullahi, Chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, thank you for talking to us today on the program.